Alright, welcome back. Got a chip installed in this. I've already filmed this footage once, but it didn't turn out how I wanted. So we have the chip down here, installed it on the kick panel. I didn't walk through how to install it because there's about 100 videos on how to do this, but it obviously works. It's the high idle setting right there. 50 horse. I've had this for about a week, 2 weeks now in the truck, just to kind of get a feel for everything. Before I posted this video, I waited a week because I wanted to have an educated opinion of what I actually thought of it, which I finally do. So 50 horse is considered, according to the thing, is the tow tune. When I tow, I generally put it in that 50 horse, 75 horse, something like that. It does make a difference. It's not as big as what you'd think. You think, oh, 50 horse, this thing's probably gonna scream. No, not really. It does make a difference, so in the shift points are better, stuff like that. In terms of daily driving, I either leave it on 100 horse. It's either generally about 75 or 100 horse. I tried 140 horse for a day or two. It's almost impossible to drive like in 140 horse. The throttle response is really, really touchy. You barely hit the gas and it just wants to go. So I mean, it's really hard to not spin your tires from a stop. In terms of EGTs though, it actually runs pretty good at the top end. It is not much hotter than stock, which is pretty nice. You know, it's a good effective tune, but it didn't smooth out once it was on here. The shift points were a little goofy, and it was acting kind of funny when I first put it on there. I don't know if it had to figure out what was going on, or I don't know what was the deal. It was just, it didn't like it at first. Like it'd shift too soon. You know, like we're on the 50 horse, and you'll watch, it'll 35, it goes into overdrive no matter what, or lockup over no matter what. There's your lockup. And it was doing that too soon, stuff like that. I had to kind of figure it out. Whatever, I don't know what all goes involved in the chip, but now it's kind of smoothed out, and it actually works pretty good. You know, it's gotten to the point where everything's right where it should be. 50 horse, it won't roll. It'll roll a tiny bit of coal. Just if you get into it a little bit like this, and it cleans up almost immediately. But it will build boost now. Like, the boost will build without the RPMs going up. Stock, you can get into the throttle, but until it kicks down a gear, it doesn't build any more boost, or very little. Now it'll actually build some boost, which is good. It means that there's a little bit of extra fuel when you get into it to help spool that turbo, hence the black smoke. But so yeah, 50 horse, just not really much to see. 75 horse, about the same, a little bit more coal. 100 horse is where things start to get exciting. It's not, I mean, this thing is not fully warmed up, it's still a little cold, but you more notice the power from a stop, like in the middle of the power band, not necessarily at wide open on the road. I mean, it does make a difference, don't get me wrong, but I guess how to put this in perspective, it's not like on my Dodge. If I put went from stock injectors to a set of 100 horse injectors on a Cummins, you're going to feel that. Now, I don't know things are different with a chip. I understand that's not, you know, it's different, but it does definitely make a difference. You know, I think with that, maybe a set of 35 horse injectors or something in this thing, maybe 60 horse, I think this thing would come alive and be pretty good. I think it would, that would, I think, be where it's at. So from a stop, like I said, you can notice it more. Like the speed just wants to climb. The RPMs go up, you know, the RPMs climb faster, everything. It will roll a little bit of coal, nothing crazy. Now, to 140 horse, which is what I'm sure most people are wanting to see. Now, I don't think the camera will pick it up, but like, when you flip it into 140 horsepower setting, you can feel the difference. It just wants to go, like you can feel it and you can hear it. It just won't. I don't know if the camera will pick that up or not. That's not me moving the throttle, that's just the chip. From 100 to 140. The throttle response is way better with 140 horse. It's almost so good it's hard to drive without snapping your neck every time you take off the gas. It takes quite a bit of practice to get it right. It's if it weren't so difficult to drive with the throttle response, like on the highway, cruising down back roads, no big deal. But coming to stop and goes at in town or whatever, not really that easy. You know, I'll show you here. I mean, and this is not me just, it just jerks you. Like, you get on the gas and it just goes. It doesn't roll into the throttle nice and easy. Like, as soon as you hit the gas, I mean, it goes. You'd have to be in the truck and feel it, but if the throttle response was turned down a little bit easier to manage, I would drive in 140 horse all the time. I mean, this, like I said, it's not overly, the EGTs aren't overly hot or anything. It's pretty standard. Now, what I'm sure everybody wants to know is how much coal does this thing roll? At least I like my trucks to roll coal. You know, I'm not driving by people blowing smoke in their face, but it does make them spooled faster, and it looks cool, you know, when you get on the gas and you got this black cloud coming out of your pipes. But it doesn't roll a ton of coal. It's kind of hard to tell from inside. I'll see if I can get some footage of that. But 140 horse almost leaves a constant stream of black smoke. Now, I don't know if you noticed how fast the throttle was moving there. I'll slow it back down, or the speed was moving, but I was only like halfway into the throttle. So I'll do a little bit of a comparison. So from 35, we'll do from 35 to 60, and I'll go about halfway down with the throttle. Okay. Now I'll take this back down to stock and do the same thing. Just to give a little bit of a comparison between the two. So that's the stock setting there. I mean, that was, I probably was a little farther down in the throttle with the stock setting than I was with the 140. Alright, so it's kind of awkward doing it here inside the cab, but you can see I'm just getting into it, and it smokes quite a bit. that's just barely getting into the throttle. Sorry about the bumpy roads. I mean, that's me going from cruising down like an 8 throttle, it starts to get into the smoke. And you can see it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't really, it just keeps smoking. It doesn't, you know, it's not like it cleans up. Although I will say this too, the turbo on this does not spool like, just from my experience, I've had Dodges way longer than Fords, but the turbo on this Ford does not spool like the Dodge truck turbo, or my black truck turbo spools. Like, that truck cleans up for the most part, except for the extreme wide open throttle, because the turbo actually starts to spool. This one doesn't. It's a different kind of spooling. Like, it does, but it's not at the same rate. That one just seems, you get into it and it just, I mean, you get into the throttle and, you know, part of it's probably the upgrades done to it, but you get in the throttle and a quarter throttle is a difference between 15 pounds of boost. Whereas in this truck, a quarter throttle might be a difference in 5 pounds of boost. Maybe. You know? So, up here we'll be coming to a stop, and then I'll do it see how much smoke it blows from the stop. Alright, so we're at the stop now. I'm going to pull out onto the road, stop, and then get into it. Because I'd be taking a corner and it would just be doing burnouts. But, and that's the tires breaking loose right there. I mean, they were spinning that whole time, even after I got out of it. That's why I cleaned up. There was no load on the motor anymore. It's hard to tell through the tinted window, but as you can see, that is all smoke there. So, yes, it will roll coal. Yes, it does make a difference. Is it a huge difference? Yeah. It definitely makes it more responsive. Now, like I say in a later part of this, well, actually, I'll just say it now. So I think the best way to describe this chip is, it may add 140 horse, but it does not add 140 horse to the peak horsepower. So like, your stock peak horsepower on these trucks is 215. Give or take. That's, I think, what they're rated at, which is probably not what they actually have. But anyways, it does not take your let's just, for instance, say it has 215 at the rear wheel. It doesn't take your peak rear wheel horsepower from 215 to 365. It does not do that. Let's say, you know how like your peak horsepower may be 215 at let's say 2,800 RPMs. What it does is it basically makes that peak happen sooner. So it adds horsepower, but it's to like the middle of your power band. It's not like your high-end power, it's your low and middle-end power gets added to, which is not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. For towing, that's really what you want. You don't need 700 or you don't need 350 peak horsepower per se. If you can get your horsepower and torque to peak pretty low and kind of flatline, it basically takes your, it takes your horsepower numbers and your torque numbers and it flatlines them at a lower RPM, if that makes sense. So it takes a spot where you'd only have 100 horsepower and makes it 100 or 240 or whatever. Everything peaks lower and flatlines. So you have more of a flat power curve. It's basically kind of the best way to describe it. I like it. I have no regrets. I mean, they're only $200. And you know, it's, as far as I'm concerned, the best $200 I ever spent on this thing, because these old Fords like this, one of the slowest vehicles I've ever been in. A stock, the way I equate it, these 7.3s, this 97 7.3 stock is the equivalent of a first generation Dodge, like my dually. That's how these feel. They are just really slow and underpowered. Whereas the second gens definitely were had a lot more power to them, a lot more pep. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about these, and they need a lot of stuff to wake them up and get them to perform better. You know, they're reliable, but kind of slow. So thanks for watching. I got more videos coming here on the first gen. Actually, kind of launching that build. Kind of excited about that. So stay tuned for the next video. Will be an update video on what's actually getting done, what parts I bought for that. So like and subscribe. Sure helps out. So thanks for watching.